Hey friends.
Hello. Thanks for tuning in. On this video, we get to share with you that it's our 1 year nomadiversary.
Yeah, 1 year ago today we bought and paid for our new RV. And we're just going to go over with you what our first year has been like, what our expectations were like compared to the reality of full-time RV living. Yeah, Tree's got some stats here that she can tell you about first.
So the first thing I wanted to mention is how many miles we've driven in the year that we've owned Trigger. Just over 8,200 miles. So it does seem a little low, but that's because I realized that for 2 months we were quarantined, so we didn't travel anywhere in those 2 months. Had we been traveling like normal, we'd probably been maybe around 10,000, maybe a little bit over 10,000. So yeah, about 8,200 miles, and we've covered 8 states and 6 national parks.
A couple states I've never been to before, like South Dakota. I've been through parts of Wyoming, but South Dakota and Montana particularly are places that I really like a lot.
Yeah, we've kind of fallen in love with Montana.
Yeah, and in those 8 states, we've been to 6 national parks, and of those national parks, most of them were in Utah. And then we'll go over, actually we're going to have a separate video about our favorite boondocking spots that we've been in.
In the year that we've been full-timing, we've only stayed at 11 paid campgrounds. And 1 since May, and that 1 was in South Dakota because we had to stay at least 1 night in order to get our driver's license. But in the year that we've been doing this, we've primarily been boondocking, but we have stayed at 11 paid sites. Now, most of those, I guess, were probably 1,000 trails, but we also paid for Boondockers Welcome and Harvest Host memberships. So, basically those 11 sites were either 1,000 trail sites that we had to pay a little extra because some of them are the encore sites. So we paid $850 total for those 3 memberships, and on top of that, with the extras for 1,000 trails or some state and county parks that we stayed in, we paid a little over $1,100 for those. So altogether, with the memberships and the paid sites that we had to shell out money for, just under $2,000. And Sean had done some calculations of how much we might have spent had we not had those memberships.
Yeah, so I did it a couple different ways. If we had been staying weekly in an RV park, I used a pretty low number of $250. It's probably closer to $350 in most of the places that we've been, as far as going to any of the RV parks in the area. So I used $250 a week, and then I also used $35 a day, and both of them came out right around $13,000. From $13,000, if we reduce it by $2,000, I guess it is.
Yeah.
So $2,000, that would put us right at about around $11,000 that it would have cost us to stay in RV parks for the whole year, and it ended up costing us looks like a little less than $2,000. Back to when we first started and what we had imagined that our lifestyle would be like as far as living full-time RV. I did a bunch of research, and I knew I wanted to boondock, and so in order for us to boondock, I knew we were going to need a good solar setup. We've got 2,000 watts of solar panels on top, and we've got 400 amp hours of batteries, of lithium batteries, which is plenty enough for us to live our full-time life with microwave and televisions and charging computers and phones. And we've always got, I guess, on a rainy day we have to run our generator for a couple hours during a day. So parks. When we first got the RV, we took it for a shakeout drive. We had to go into Nevada to actually pay for it, so we could register it in South Dakota. But we took it to an RV park so we could run it through its paces and see what was, if there was anything wrong with it that we hadn't noticed while we were still at the dealer.
And that was the day, basically the day after we took ownership of it, and I think we had paid for 4 nights ahead of time at this RV park, and pretty much as soon as we drove in, and it's one of those RV parks where you're like right next to each other,
right across the
like,
street from a casino.
Yeah, there's no really character at all to it, and we pretty much knew right away that we did not want to stay in RV parks if we could at all help it.
Now, we've been in some RV parks since then,
nicer.
like in Arizona, where it's like 55 and older, and there's a community of people, living there that are like, when I was younger, 30s, 40s maybe, I would look at these places, I'd be like, who wants to be in one of those places, much full of a bunch of old people? Now that I'm one of the old people, I see the attraction of wanting to be around people your own age and not having to deal with like other neighbors who aren't part of your community. So there are nicer RV parks that we've stayed in, but that one was definitely just kind of like full of like gambling addicts, probably being around all the casinos.
A lot of full timers, a lot of people with just older couples with walking their dog. I mean, I guess maybe some addicts, but for the most part, it was just. I mean, it just wasn't anywhere that I wanted to spend more than a couple of days.
And I meant gambling addicts. I didn't mean I didn't mean drug addicts at all. I'm talking about people that gamble a lot or else work in the casinos. Because it was like right next to a casino, and everybody seemed kind of casino-ish. They seemed very closed to like what was going on around them. But anyway. We might cut this part out. I'm not sure if this part's going to stay in it because I didn't think that anybody was drug addicts at all. It was just like, it was just a trailer park we just weren't into. So anyway. And so that trip to Oregon, we didn't really boondock except for when we were in our friends' driveways. Hey, Jeremy. Thanks a lot.
And Amy.
Amy, thanks. We'll see you guys soon, I hope. And but anyway, so we, besides staying in their driveway up near Multnomah Falls and the Gorge,
Corbett Hill.
Yeah, we stayed down in Florence, and we stayed at a Thousand Trails Park there. And so anyway, we did another shakedown, and the big problem this time was our electricity setup as far as the inverter and the ability to charge our batteries. So it was back to Grass Valley and to get that looked at. And on the way there, because we had to make an appointment, we stayed for, was it 3 weeks?
Where? In DeMartini?
No, in a Oregon house, California, I think it was called.
Oh, that was on the way there.
That was on the way back to DeMartini because we had to make an appointment to get the rest of the work done.
Yeah, it was about 2.5 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, so after staying there for 2.5 weeks, we went back and stayed at DeMartini's, where we stayed for a good solid 2 weeks while they went through all the issues that we had come up with, which was mostly getting a new inverter and getting that installed and getting our steps to work right, and just a couple other small things. Oh, we had shaken loose one of the sliding doors in the hallway at the first RV park that we went to in Florence. We hit a bump and it shook the RV to the point where that door was off, loose or whatever, and it came off its hinges, so they had to fix that. And so after all that stuff got fixed, we were ready to actually do some boondocking. And
I call that the training wheels, the whole thing of going to Oregon and staying in different places, and then knowing that we were going to be going back to the dealer. I remember saying that was like our training wheel phase, because like Sean said, once we were able to get all of those little things worked out, then we were pretty much on the road full time.
And while this was all going on, we were staying in our RV at DeMartini, which was our dealer. And I just gotta say, of any business that I've ever done business with, DeMartini's went above and beyond what I would expect as far as service. I mean, we were able to stay there for 2 weeks, a couple different times, with full hookups. And they would work on it, and we would come back from hanging out at the river or something in the daytime. And so we finally got everything straightened away and started our boondocking, which started going down 395, which again, like we said, we'll go over like what our favorite campsites were. But we knew we would be spending our winters in the desert, because by the time we left DeMartini's, it was October. And when we did start camping places, it was the weather that was moving us south. So we finally got down into the desert. And one of the places that people talk about is like, I don't know if I would necessarily use the word mecca of RV destinations, which was Quartzsite, Arizona. And so we'd been through Quartzsite before on our way to Tucson for the gem shows, because that's what our business is gems and jewelry. And maybe we'll put a link down below as far as how you can see any of that stuff that we do.
Hey, here's a question. So talking about reality versus or expectations versus reality, how did Quartzsite meet or not our expectations? I mean, what did you have any particular idea of what Quartzsite was going to be like before we got there?
Yes, because I've known about Quartzsite as a place where there's gem shows going on, and they're usually in January, December into January before Tucson, and I had never been through Quartzsite. I'd only been through it like near the end of January, which the gem show that whatever was going on was kind of near the end. So I'd never seen it in full swing as far as any gem show in Quartzsite, as far as like the mecca of the RV world.
Yeah.
Through my research and in the different RV groups I was part of and hearing people talk about it, and kind of what I had already, and what I gathered in my mind about what it was like based on all those things, when we finally got there, I would say it was pretty much exactly like what I would have expected it to be. And as far as like the camping and where you like are able to stay, we did the long-term visitor access. So
LTVAs,
so we stayed in a spot that was like had a dump and water that was really easy to get to, so we didn't have to like drive very far away to get to dump. And
it was like it for all intents and purposes, it seemed like a little city.
Yeah, it is totally a city. There's tons of people, and anyway, as far as what we'd expected versus what it was actually like, I don't know.
Yeah, it was pretty much what, like you said, what we expected, because we'd seen videos and we knew kind of what, but you just never know until you actually get in there. And it was cool, it's like we pretty much stayed in our RV, or during the days when it was nice, we'd be outside, and there was one guy that we the Grateful Dead flag, kind of called him over, and he was cool. We hung out with him for a bit when we were there, but it wasn't until we left there and we went up to La Posa, which is a BLM area. It was not part of the LTVAs, but we got up there and we started meeting people in the Escapers group, and it was a much different experience, because it was definitely more people our speed or whatever,
and we could move at our own speed and try to like make connections with other people that are our speed, and not feel like we had to push ourselves to do every single activity if it didn't necessarily interest us or whatever. but anyway, talking about expectations and things like that, one of the things was dumping the black tanks, like what the expectations of that would be, and our expectation of it was so negative from like reading. I guess you only read the bad things people say about things like that, but
fountains of brown fountains.
And so I was our RV came with a macerator, so that was one thing I was like thought seemed good, and so actually our expectations of it weren't the best, so we had actually bought a composting toilet that we were going to put in, and our dealer actually talked us out of that, so we sent that back and got our money back for that. But the reality of doing a black dump or tank dump at all versus what I had expected was really easy. The macerator makes things so nice and simple. I don't have to have like a box that I've got my hoses in, and I have to like go hook up all my hoses and these multiple hoses with turning corners so you can see how everything's going, and where it's just a gravity dump.
Yeah, the main thing is that the hose is attached to the tank, and we don't have to do any kind of detaching.
Just got to take a screw off the cap and stick it in the hole, and then once you do that, you just push a button and it turns on this macerator, which is a big blender that turns everything into liquid and
shoots it out.
It shoots it out, pumps it out fast. So we see other people taking like 20 minutes to do their dump, and it takes us like 1 minute, maybe 3 minutes if you include the gray tank to flush it out after, and then fleshing out the black tank again with extra water. So that was something as far as like expectations. It's like that's one you're always going to think about as far as having to deal with your your poop on a regular basis. But that has not really been a big deal at all.
Yeah.
You having the powder that we put in after every time
Happy
we flush,
camper.
Happy Camper, that just makes things just like
Yeah, in the years, I think maybe 2 times I can think of that before before we had to dump that we smelled it in the coach. But that's pretty good. It's like I've seen other people talk about the fact that their black tank always smells, or even their gray tank, and we don't let really anything other than rinse water and shower, bath water, whatever, go down the drain. So our gray tank is pretty clean. So yeah, I think I would say my expectation in that going into it, that I kind of expected to smell it occasionally, but I think we've just been taking care of it the right way, and knock on some wood that we haven't had any issues with that. So let's talk a little bit about storage. We purged a lot, almost everything of our personal belongings before we moved into the RV, and we thought we did a pretty darn good job. I thought I did a great job of paring down what I could bring with for kitchen stuff.
I think it was a little more challenging for Tree having to figure out what she's going to be able to put into the kitchen, because it's not huge, it's not even big, and
right. Well, that's what I was going to say, that the internal storage space, I think, was definitely less than what I anticipated coming into it. Like I'd seen pictures, so I knew where all the storage was going to be, but until you actually start putting stuff into the storage spaces, you don't really know how little space you have.
We should probably do a separate video on that, just giving you a tour of the RV. I realize we've never done that, and to show you what the storage space is like, and
kind of where we put everything.
What happens to some of the doors when they're when they get shaken up driving down these roads that we go on.
Yeah.
But so storage capacity, like I said, is mostly where Tree's going to put her cooking stuff.
Yeah. So when we had moved everything into the rig, I would say probably 2 big plastic bins that I had to give away, because I had already I basically took out everything, like all the pots and pans and spices, everything else that I knew that I had to have, and I found space for that. And as I was going through everything, I'm like, okay, well, I don't need this, and at the time, luckily we were staying just about half a mile away from a Goodwill donation center. So I think we made a couple of trips there before we were all said and done, before we were pretty much all moved in. So even when we thought that we had purged everything that we needed to purge, we had to purge more. And, over the year, there have been a couple of things that we've given away to people, or that we found out that we didn't need. But
well, some of the things that we didn't need were things that we took back to our storage, because we were supposed to travel with our business, which we'll talk about that in a little bit. And so not doing our business, there were some things that we were carrying around that we definitely didn't need, so we took those back to storage. But as far as paring down and what we all got rid of, I think I did really good as far as things that I personally needed to get rid of. I brought
t-shirts.
Well, but they fit in the drawer.
Yes, they do.
Right? There's nothing else that I'm trying to get in there. So when I try to get something else in the drawer, then I will, get rid of some t-shirts.
Yeah.
And there are definitely some to get rid of, for sure. I find that I don't wear even a quarter of them. So, and like I said, I brought a big computer, a big 27-inch iMac that I have to set up when I want to use my computer. And so that's probably one of the biggest things I brought. For me personally, it's hat storage. Boxes that I have that have hats in them, and hats that just take up space in general. Those are probably the most. That and shoes, which I've cut down a lot on my shoes, and I still have too many shoes.
You Imelda Marcos of shoes over here.
Yeah, so finding a place to put shoes is one of the biggest things for me. As far as things that take up space, I've got a couple percussion instruments around, and they're able to move them, so.
Yeah, everything, when it comes down to travel days and having to put stuff away, we pretty much have a space for everything. And sometimes it means, for his big drum, We put it on the bed under the blanket, so it's cushioned as we travel. But yeah, for the most part, like you were right. Most of the stuff that you had to pare down, you did a pretty good job of paring down.
So like I had big things. I had a full drum set that I had to like find a foster home for it.
Oh, we knew that wasn't going on.
Yeah, so
he had dreams.
Yeah,
possible.
no, so that if I didn't have my business, I could probably have those drums. But anyway, I also had to get rid of all my lapidary equipment. I had a 6-wheel cabbing machine, and
that was definitely not coming on the rig.
Yeah, I mean, I still have a flex shaft tool that I can use if I get around to doing that kind of stuff. But so yeah, that's how I pared down, and so it really hasn't been that bad. And sometimes when we got the crystals out, it kind of takes up a lot of space on the couches and things like that, so it kind of feels a little crowded when we're doing that kind of stuff. But
everything, like I said, everything has a place. Eventually when we have to put stuff away, there's a space for it.
Yeah, we'll show you some still.
95%. There's still a couple of things that we just leave out as we're traveling because they just stay on the couch. But I think I've seen pictures and heard stories of other people where it's like it takes them way too long to put stuff out or in because they still have stuff all over the place. But I think we're doing a pretty good job with that.
Oh, and one more thing about storage capacity and all the stuff that Tree cooks with. Once we got into the RV, I had heard so much stuff about the Ninja Foodie, and we knew we wanted to get it, and we kept looking at them for a while before we finally pulled the trigger. And when we did pull the trigger, we already had a pressure cooker Instapot.
Yeah.
And so we had to get rid of the Instapot and find a place for the Ninja Foodie, which is kind of a big item. And fortunately, it fit perfectly in one of the plastic tubs we had, and it fits right in the shower, which is people who are our full-time RV people know that the shower is an awesome storage spot.
The shower and the microwave are two little secret spots that are really great for things that need a place to go. I mean, the microwave I pretty much only use just for travel days. I'll put stuff in there, but the rest of the time it's empty. But yeah, the storage makes a great extra closet space.
And I also want to say I really like the Ninja Foodie. I like the food that it prepares. And especially the wings, man. Yeah. So, anyways, that's I think about capacity, outside capacity. So, like I was saying, outside capacity. We carry a gem and jewelry business and enough stuff to set up under 2 10x10 easy ups. And at this point, we expected to be doing festivals and gem shows and street fairs and art fairs and things like that, and those with COVID just are not happening at all. So we still have our business with us, and we're able to do like pop-up shows. We haven't done any yet. We've done some internet sales, but mostly, hopefully we're something like pop-up shows or just like some private home shows for friends along the road that would like to see something like that. So if if you're following our travels and we're going anywhere where you are and you'd like to have a personal private gem show that you could host, let's talk about that. Get a hold of us.
We feel much safer doing something like that than doing any kind of event, which there are no events right now to do. But
we expected to be able to make a living while we were on the road, and the reality of that is that we cannot make a living on the road doing this business. So fortunately, like if you've been following us, we sold our house and we're able to get completely out of debt, and we have some savings, and we are definitely been cutting into it, and we're hoping that we can get some work going here at some point doing something. We'll see how that goes.
But we're doing okay. We're not struggling.
Yeah, we're not suffering at all.
No, we're definitely not suffering.
We're living life in abundance, Eric.
And the fact is, we have been doing some small online sales, and that helps put some diesel in our rig, and that helps. Thank you, everybody who's
get some fishing gear and some floating gear. Got a new camera that we're actually shooting. This is our first video on our new camera.
Let us know what you think. If
compared
the video,
to the other videos.
If the video quality looks good. We'll definitely be obviously using it more than just showing the inside right here.
Yeah, like when we're looking at eagles across the river, this should have a much better zoom and a clarity of picture. Other storage capacity outside. Some of the things that I didn't even think about that now I think about are toys. Things to float in, fishing poles. Putting a fishing pole somewhere is not a problem.
Paddleboards.
Yeah, we'd like to get so expectations versus reality when it comes to gas mileage. You know, on the Jayco Seneca groups that I'm on, I heard people talking about 10.5 miles to the gallon. I think that's probably as high as I ever heard them go. Anything higher than that, I probably didn't really pay any serious attention to. You wouldn't believe it. And so anyway, people were saying 10 miles to the gallon. And, you know, 10 miles to the gallon might be true if you live someplace where it's really flat, you don't really hit the mountains too much, if you're not towing. And these people say that they've got 10 miles, to, you know, while they're towing, doing 80 miles an hour. It's just like, yeah, people might stretch the truth on some of that stuff. What I found is that we get between 800 and 850 miles on a tank of 100 gallons. So it's about 8.5 miles to the gallon is about what we average probably, and that doesn't include the generator, which also uses diesel out of that same tank. So if we add the generator usage in with the, you know, say 8.5 miles that we get to the gallon, it might be closer to 9. I don't know. It's probably negligible because we don't have to use the generator that much. Having a nice solar system to power. I want to say,
didn't you say like I think the lowest we had gotten, but I think we were going through some pretty mountainous areas, was maybe 6 miles to the gallon.
No, it was like 7.5.
7, okay.
Yeah, and that was coming out of Flaming Gorge because it was pretty much uphill the whole way coming out of there.
Yeah.
And so besides that gas mileage, which I mean, other RV people probably listening to this going, 8.5, that's not so bad, you know, because I'm sure there's people in their big Class A's that get like 6.5 or something. As far as other things that we put in to keep our ability to travel that has to happen at gas stations, it's our DEF fuel, diesel exhaust fuel, which keeps the exhaust from choking other people driving down the road. Because you don't want to run out of DEF at all, because if you run out of DEF, the whole coach goes into limp mode.
That's what I was talking about.
Which means you go 5 miles an hour until you get someplace where you can put the DEF in, and I think you might even have to prime something up if that happens. So I don't know whether you need a mechanic or not. If you're a Jayco specialist, leave a message and we'll find out.
We don't really want to find out, so we always make sure that we get DEF before we.
If it gets to half, if it goes below, if the second light goes out, there's 4 lights. If the second one goes out, we're stopping to get DEF. We don't let it get that low.
Yeah.
But we don't want to fill it up too much, so whatever DEF is in there, it gets old, because your DEF needs to be pretty fresh in general for these rigs. And then the other thing that we have to get at gas stations is propane. And in the winter, we go through probably 2 tanks a month, right?
Yeah, I think that's about what it was.
We go through about 2 tanks that are built into our RV, which are, I think, 20 pounds or 20 gallons.
20 gallons, yeah.
Yeah, so
the next thing that we wanted to talk about was just our expectations versus reality of driving the rig and trip planning and driving styles.
Okay, so this is the part I like when you talk about driving the rig, because driving the rig is one of my favorite things to do. One of my favorite things about the RV is actually driving it, because it drives like a big car. It drives like I've driven pickup trucks that are harder to drive, as far as like being able to see over the hood and the vision and, you know, all that. And so I had never driven an RV before we got this RV. The biggest thing I'd ever driven was a U-Haul truck, and I drove it from Georgia to California, pulling a car on a trailer. So that's my only experience in any kind of like truck or, you know, or anything like that. And so when we got the RV, I had a joke, and my joke was, I'll be able to drive it because it's just a big truck, and my dad was a truck driver, so I'll know how to do it too.
It's in my blood.
And I guess there was a little bit of truth to that, because I got in this thing, and I mean, the first time I drove it, I drove through a red stop sign. But besides that, I mean, it was pretty easy to drive, and I felt confident from the first time I got behind the wheel. So, trip planning. So Tree is the trusty co-pilot of this duo, and when we first started off, we didn't have a GPS, and we didn't know what it looked like, the gas stations that we wanted to go to, what it looked like even getting into them, and it caused we didn't have walkie-talkies yet, and we were trying to like learn how to back up and things like that, and Tree doesn't really know the hand signals and stuff like that, so it was really frustrating at first. And even
this, I think my biggest frustration was I think just I would get anxious or nervous, which I have never considered myself an anxious person really in any way. But I found out that I did have some anxiety around just making sure that everything was in its place, and where are we going to go, and where are we going to get gas, and what does it look like, and try to find out as many little tiny details as I needed. And I've learned that I don't need to know all of those little details. Having an idea of where our destination is.
Having a GPS.
So
once we got a GPS,
sure.
our Garmin 770, which we call Gypsy. Once we got that, because that really, I don't know. I joke that it saved our marriage, but it definitely took a lot of the pressure off of, like, because it knows the size of our rig. It knows how much we weigh, how long we are, how high we are, so it doesn't take us on roads that are unsafe.
Yeah, so far we haven't had any issues with it taking us down the wrong roads or someplace where we couldn't get into. So it's been working great. But I also use Campendium and iOverlander and a whole bunch of other resources in order to find camping spots, and then I use pretty much Allstays to figure out gas stops. So we've gotten a lot better as far as I'll say I've gotten a lot better when it comes to travel days and trip planning, and I still spend, both of us now spend a lot of time looking at different areas and potential areas of where we can go, because if we were a smaller rig, like a 23 footer or something like that, we could pretty much show up almost anywhere and not have a problem fitting in. But we're 40 feet plus the tow, so I do as much research ahead of time of like reviews, seeing what size rigs can make it, what the road in to these boondocking spaces are like,
coverage.
If there's cell coverage, all of that. Overall the travel days have gotten a lot better. The Garmin really helped a lot. And really, for me, just not worrying so much about every little detail. Like, yes, I look at the satellite view on Google Maps, but I've come to learn that sometimes those satellite images are fairly old, like maybe 6 months old, because what looked to be one way on the satellite image, we get to the location and it's
a brand new gas station.
Yes, a brand new gas station or something like that. So I don't put the full trust in the satellite, but it is one of the tools that we use as we're driving down the road.
Something that probably caused or reduces any levels of anxiety is having shorter travel days.
Yeah.
Having long travel days, it's hard. It's probably hardest on me. After a couple hours, I'm getting antsy, kind of want to stretch. So I like to stretch at least every couple hours. But what's even better than stopping to stretch every couple hours is having your whole travel day be just a couple hours. 2 to 3 hours. It really helps. Of not having to get up early and make a move and getting, driving 5 or 6 hours and getting someplace late in the afternoon.
Never arrive to your camp spot, no matter what it is, reserved, boondock. Otherwise, try never to get there after dark.
For multiple reasons.
Yeah.
The first reason is, depending on how much experience you have, you may feel very comfortable doing it. I think the second reason is for the people that are kicking back in their houses and having dinner or sitting around their campsite at 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night or later, and you pull in, your lights are blinding people and things like that. So just
so
common courtesy.
Reasons, yeah.
But pulling in at night like we did in the first campsite that we went to, and we pulled the wrong way down the road and had to do a 10-point turn. So
I gave him mad props for that, because and also at that time, I did not know how to drive a stick shift, that's what our tow vehicle is a stick shift. So it wasn't really until November, December that I really felt adept at driving that. So not only was Sean driving the rig and having to deal with this, he also had to, we had to detach the car, and he had to move it and then get into the rig and do all the 10-point everything. And it was just it was.
So short travel days are a good idea.
And I think that was the longest travel day that we've had so far, and that was about 6 hours, if I remember correctly.
So this is the biggest sticking point of not that it's a sticking point that makes us happy or unhappy, happy. It's just a reality that we have to deal with on a regular basis, and that's water.
Yeah, water usage.
Yeah, conserving water.
Yeah.
You know, not filling up our gray tank too fast. Knowing where water is if we want to stay somewhere for a longer period of time to know to go get more water.
It was basically just facing the reality of it as we started to live in a space that, so what is our freshwater tank?
So our tanks, our freshwater tank is 72 gallons,
right.
our black tank is 50 gallons, and our gray water tank is 40 gallons.
Right, so there's a matter of making sure that you're not using too much water or that you're filling up your gray tank too fast, because we've successfully been able to do that a couple of times. I've learned to conserve space in the gray tank by using these wash bins and any rinse water, which tends to be pretty clean because we wipe off all food particles, or as much as we possibly can, with paper towel and throw that away. So basically when we're washing dishes, we're basically just washing relatively clean dishes, some grease or, you know, like little food particles. So that's another way of keeping your gray tank pretty clean. So I take the rinse water. When we wash our hair, a lot of times we just wash our hair in the sink, and I'll collect it in the wash bin. You know, pretty much any time that there's relatively clean wash water that we can collect, I collect it in that and I throw it away. I throw it out, you know, outside. So that doesn't go into our gray tank, and I think that's helped a lot for us to be able to stay up to about 2 weeks in some places.
So when we first started, we probably stayed in places maybe up to 10 days. So we never pushed our system. We never knew how long we could actually stay someplace until we were in
I think it was right outside Joshua Tree.
Outside Joshua Tree, and we stayed for I think it was on the 13th day. We noticed that the gray water was full. And this was before we started like dumping out gray water, and so I had to go do the dump and everything. So, but we noticed that we could go 2 weeks, and so we got to say about using water and how long it lasts. If we have 72 gallons of water and we expect to take a shower every day, we are going to be dumping our gray tank every 3 days. If we were expecting to take a shower every day, we don't. Showers are kind of you don't get full showers that much around here. We get a full shower if we find, so when we get to a place, sometimes we'll take a shower. Sometimes if we're going somewhere, we'll get water in our tank and we'll take showers, and then before we get to the next camping site, we can like dump it out and things like that. And like Tree was saying, she really conserves water and tries not to put water like we just washed our hair. That water, we got done with it, we threw it out. If we have extra water running somewhere, we'll take that clean water and we'll put it in our water filter so that we actually use that water.
Oh yeah, that's a big thing for sure. Is whenever we're by a river or some kind of natural body of water that we can collect that water, we put it through our gravity water filter. It's called an AlexaPure, very similar, pretty much identical to the Berkey filter, which a lot of people know about. So that definitely helps conserve our freshwater tank, so that we don't actually have to take water from that tank to put through the filter.
But even if we do conserve all that, not put that water into our gray tank and throw it out, eventually we get to a point where the gray tank is full and needs to be emptied. So back to when it comes to water and how long we can go between dumps, it's about 2 weeks. And actually, living this lifestyle for a while, we realized that it is totally possible to not have to take a shower every day. But you definitely have to take a shower to get your hair to look like this. So.
Or this. This is really easy to take care of.
So these are two signs of what living in an RV will lead you to do when you have limited amounts of water.
I mean, I know plenty of people that still have long hair and they manage, but for us, everybody does RVing differently. And for us, we just felt that it took me a little bit longer to get to the point of, just shave it all off.
Yeah, getting used to the whole water thing was probably the biggest change as far as
challenge or whatever.
Yeah, but because I don't know how much I even thought about it as far as in expectations of what we were going to go through. I mean, of course I did the research and I knew how much the tanks would hold, But once you take 2 showers in a row off a fresh tank, and all of a sudden you've got like half a tank, it's just like, oh, okay, so we should definitely figure out how to make our showers shorter, and cutting off our hair was definitely one big way of doing that. So okay, so that's our water reality, and this next thing is
keeping the rig
trigger clean.
Yeah.
How do we keep trigger
inside
clean?
and out?
Well, one thing that is a constant in RV living, especially in the summer when you're in Utah and everywhere else where you would go drive to camp at boondock in National Forest or BLM roads, is
dust.
Dust. I mean, it's dust everywhere.
Dust is a pretty much constant.
Yeah, when you're going down these National Forest service roads, and it's just 6 miles of washboard road on dusty. You get to some areas where the dust is just like 6 inches thick, and it's just, I mean, it's dusty and everywhere you go. So the tow vehicle, we always have the dirtiest car around. Usually saw one dirtier in Montana, and they were actually locals. So in the time that we've had the rig, we got it washed. We washed it one time ourselves when we were staying at David and Rivka's, and then when we were in Plamosa Road, we got this. Well, before we got the RV, I did some research, and I found out the cheapest place to get your RV cleaned is in Yuma, Arizona. So when we were in Quartzsite, we realized that same company that does the best work for the best price in Yuma is a mobile RV wash as well, and they go everywhere from Yuma up to Bullhead City or Lake Havasu, yeah. And so they came to us and cleaned our rig, and it was $250, which was $100 cheaper than we were going to be able to get it done at the convergence we were going to. So we got that done there, and then on the road I realized there's the truck stop where trucks get their trucks washed at, and so going to those places is like $55-$60 to go get washed there. So we got it washed there one time, but then as soon as you get it washed, you're out on some Forest Service road driving through the dust again, and next thing you know, you've got Montana pinstripes from the bushes and stuff that you're driving past down the side of your RV. And I just wanted to show you what Montana pinstriping looks like. There's this got a pretty good scratch on the door. That one's gonna have to get buffed out, but all these little scratches like this, these can just pretty much rub out by hand. And I don't know if you can, how well you can see that on here. Yeah, you can see it. So yeah, we got a pretty good amount of some Montana pinstriping, but we end up in places like Mather Lake, and everything's dusty again. So
choosing when we do it so that the very next day we don't go down dirt roads again. We try and
I don't know how much any of that's going to matter. It's just a matter of just actually washing your car from time to time. It doesn't matter when it's going to get dirty again. Just know that it's going to.
Right.
And going back to like water usage and keeping the vehicles clean, now with our extra 60-gallon tank, we can use that. So I found by having that, if I just get a regular pump that'll just pump water out of it, like to a garden or whatever, having that hooked up to a pressure washer will allow us to clean the whole rig and the car wherever we're at, right out of the back of the car without having to use any of our gray tanks and stuff like that. So that's something we're going to be adding. Just got to find space for a pressure washer, and I think once we do that, we'll be able to keep our rig clean wherever we're at, not have to go to truck stops or truck washes or pay people to come out and wash our rig someplace.
Yeah, I mean, at some point, I imagine that we probably will get a good buffer or buffing on the rig just to try and get out some of the scratches that we've gotten over the past.
When we get
6
down
months.
to Yuma, we're going to have those same people that were able to come out and do it, and they do it for way cheaper if you're in Yuma, and they also are a body shop. And so as far as getting out any scratches and stuff like that, they have all the tools and stuff that they need for that. So I think it's called Roberto's, and they're in Yuma. And so I'd highly recommend those guys. They do a really good job.
We'll put their information in the section down below the video.
If Tree reminds me to do that, I will definitely put that in there. So, and if I don't, send us a message, and I'll be glad to tell you where that is and give the information I have on them. Okay, so do-it-yourself repairs. So owning an RV, if you're going to take your RV back to the dealer or to somewhere to get it fixed for every little thing that goes wrong with it, you're going to be very unhappy, and you're going to spend a lot of your time not having your RV and having it in the shop to get fixed or something. and spending money to get it fixed as well. And when I hear a lot of people, they take their RV to get fixed, and one thing gets fixed, and then something else gets broken. So I mean, you know, your mileage may vary when it comes to that kind of stuff, but I knew that I wanted to learn how to do as much stuff on my own when it comes to the RV as I can. And as
I recommend having a screwdriver handy at all times, because that's probably one of the tools that we use the most, because every couple of trips I'm tightening up some screw on a cabinet somewhere in the coach.
Yeah, just a small screwdriver for things like that, and also a small impact wrench, you know, like a electric screwdriver that you can get into small spaces with an extender on it to be able to get up into some of the things like these things above me, balances and different screws that are far away and things like that. So that comes in really handy. Some of the do-it-yourself things that I've had to do since we've got the rig was our heater stopped working. We have a video on that where we were in Utah, and we're at 8,900 feet, and the stop, it just wasn't working. And so again, going on the Jayco owners group, I saw a video and they showed that it was just this little switch. I mean, when you look at it, it doesn't look like a switch. It just looks like a piece of metal that goes into this hole. And when you slide it out, there was just some dust around the end of it. And I just cleaned the dust off and put it back, and it was the dust that was causing it from not firing.
Took about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and the other major thing I did on the rig was I did an oil change on the generator, which was pretty easy. But again, without the YouTube videos, I would have been lost, not really known what I was doing. So having that to show me what I was doing definitely helped. I mean, I've never even done an oil change on a car, so I'm not sure about doing the oil change on the rig. Maybe if I make friends with a diesel mechanic at some point and he shows me how to do it, and you know, on my own, I'll start doing that. But
yeah, YouTube has been super resourceful as far as finding. I mean, we knew that for all sorts of reasons before we even got into the rig. So it was just a natural extension of a resource that we would use on how to fix things. And, you know, whether it's on the car or on the rig, you can pretty much find a YouTube video to watch. And I think by watching the videos, it has helped you figure out, okay, this is something I can do.
It encourages you to, and makes you a little more confident that you can actually do these things yourself.
But I think there's some videos that you can watch and be like, yeah, I'm not really sure if I necessarily want to, you know, do that myself.
It's easy to tell yourself that until you actually try.
Right.
But one of the other major things that actually happened with the rig that we actually had to get fixed and was able to happen under warranty was our macerator, which I think I told you earlier on, it's just like, it's really awesome to have a macerator because it makes everything neat and clean and fast. And when it didn't work that day, I was like, uh-oh. Right? Because when you're dealing with poop, you want to be able to get rid of it and not have any hang-ups or barriers to taking care of that stuff. And so anyway, we got to an RV park that we were going to next, and I called a mobile mechanic. And I always recommend this: if you're out on the road and something goes wrong with your rig, don't call some RV repair place or something. Call a mobile mechanic, somebody that'll come out to you that works with insurance. And they were able to, we were able to contact Jayco before they ever came out. And so when they did and found out what was wrong with it, they were able to let Jayco know, and Jayco covered the whole thing. They actually overnighted us a whole new macerator, and so we were able to replace the macerator that was just miswired at Jayco originally, and that's why it caused a burned out motor. So they replaced that, and we got a whole new hose, so it's a backup in case we need a hose. But in the year that we've had the RV, that's the extent of things that needed to get fixed, or things that we were able to do it ourselves and fix.
Yeah, and on that note, when he talked about having to contact Jayco, we've seen other people on different forums say that they would never recommend Jayco, that their warranty worked, that they had problems getting things covered, and one thing or another that they were complaining about. And we've contacted Jayco now, well, one time for the macerator, and then another time for our refrigerator, because that came loose and that had to be covered. So
there's a video for that too, of us getting stuck in a mono lake.
Right.
So check that out. That's
so the whole thing about that is the fact that we've had great experiences so far with the 2 times that we've had to contact them, even with the fact that the refrigerator, the work was done, we had scheduled to get the work done before we contacted Jayco. So yeah, we've had great experience so far with their customer service and warranty work. Yep.
Okay, so as we're gonna move into the last part of our video here, and on our list is what do we love about this lifestyle, and I hate it. I want to go back to living in a box under a bridge. Actually, I've never lived in a box under a bridge, and I'm being very facetious about that because honestly, I'm living my dream that I've had for over 30 years to live in an RV and travel and.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. You know, obviously, and through the course of this video, you've heard some of the things that have come up. It's not all rainbows and sparkles and butterflies. It's our life. It's just it's how we live. It's just we happen to have wheels on our house and we don't have the sticks and bricks anymore. And I love seeing more of the country than I've seen before, or revisiting places that I haven't seen in 20 or 25 years.
I've never lived in the woods for 2 weeks at a time,
right?
With nobody around to bother me or to like tell me what anything. So I've never done that, and that's basically what we do all the time. Mm-hmm. Besides being able to move from place to place and see different national parks and be camping by rivers and lakes and have
different backyards and front yards and views out the window
on a regular basis. Awesome. Meeting new people is always really cool. But what I really love about this lifestyle the best is what's happened with our relationship. Just living with somebody in close quarters, it's 250 square feet. You think that you would get sick of them, or and if you think that you're going to get sick of somebody living in 250 square feet, I hope you deal with whatever the issues you have are before you ever try to do something like that, because we actually did do things about that. We did the Human Awareness Institute workshops, which were life-changing for me and probably for both of us. They were crucial in taking our relationship to a new level, and moving into the RV and being with each other 24 hours a day, 24/7 every day. It's I just say that our relationship has just gotten so much better, and
you have to learn how to communicate and talk about things, if whether it's something that's going on with you personally, emotionally, or that something isn't working right on the rig or something or other, that you have to talk about it, and you have to talk about how to fix something, whether it's in our relationship or individually that we need to work on, or something physical that has to be fixed. The communication is even more important and more crucial, I think, than when we were living in the house.
Yeah. So the next thing.
So what have we learned? Yeah. What have we learned from being nomads in this year?
Well, one of the things that I thought I knew, and is true, is that I create my own reality with my choices. And so, you might think, oh, you made your choice to sell your house, and you made a choice to whatever, put your stuff in storage, or did whatever choices you made. But what I really learned was it's not only the choices that create my reality, it's how I react to things. And I mean that's a choice of how I'm going to react to things. And a lot of people feel like they just react just out of their conditioning, and they don't really have any control over how someone makes them feel. Like if somebody could actually make you feel in a certain way, the reality is you get to choose how you feel and how you react to things, and how you react to things is what creates the resistance or non-resistance, or the ability to actually see it in a way where you can make healthy changes. So,
I think for me, what I've learned is how to be more adaptable and just kind of go with the flow and be like, oh, okay, well, we thought we were going to go there, but now we've decided to go there or take that route or whatever. And so yeah, I've just learned how to be a little bit more easygoing, flexible.
Yeah. Is there anything else that I've learned? So I've learned a lot about like fixing things myself.
Yeah. He's very handy.
Not that there's been that many things, but it's just like if needs to be fixed. Let me see if I can fix it. So yeah, any other things I've learned is that I've learned that you can make your relationship stronger living in 250 square feet that rolls. And that life can be fun all the time, no matter what's going on, because like I said, you get to choose how you're going to feel and how you're going to react to things. And you know, if you're reacting to things that it sucks, well, then that's the whole reality of that, is going to suck. But if you look at it like, oh, that's what happened, what does this have to show me about myself? How I'm going to, and what it has to show me is how I can react and how I create the reality based on how I react. So again, that's kind of the biggest thing that I've learned, is that, I guess the last thing, is there anything we don't like about Trigger? Any modifications that we want to make in the future?
I'll start.
Okay.
So I would say the one thing that I dislike the most is our pantry. I thought that I was going to like it. We'll show you pictures of it right here. And
yeah, it'll be
I just,
right there.
I thought it was going to be cool with how it slid out, but I really don't like it for a number of different reasons. One of which is because the space is not really utilized that well. So I'm hoping that we can come across somebody who knows about carpentry and can look at it and tell me if you know, some modification that I'm thinking about will in fact work. But I mean, as far as something that's fixable, that I don't like about Trigger, I think that's the main thing.
One of the modifications that I want to do on this is, like I said, we sit at this dining area a lot, and we're really happy to have a dining area, because in all the years that we've been together, we have never had a dining table, place where we would actually dedicated to having meals.
Even most, for me personally, I think that there has only been one house that I have ever lived in, including the house that I grew up in, that had a place that you could actually sit and eat meals. Every other place that I have ever lived, including growing up, we just didn't have dining tables. So this is kind of a new phenomenon for me.
So anyway, we sit here a lot, and after sitting here for a year now, I've realized that I would rather have something a little bit more comfortable than just kicking back in this booth against the pillow. And so right on, just back behind the camera there, is our fold-out couch, which is kind of standard in a lot of RVs, and it's got a queen-size hide-a-bed in it, and we want to get that taken out and have 2 recliner loungers put in there. And then across from there, there's another little sofa that can be removed right under the TV, and I'd like to put like a credenza with a fold-out desk over there, so I could, you know, do my business stuff and be able to plug in over there and not have to like set up a new table or just put my monitor in the corner to be able to like work on my computer. So yeah, eventually I'd like to put those lounge chairs in there and then remove that couch and just put some storage and a little fold-up desk over there. Besides that, oh, something I don't like about Trigger, and something I would have changed from the very beginning if I would have known, was I would have not got the tow vehicle we have. Like, we love our tow vehicle because it's great for being off-road and for doing scouting for boondocking spots, but this rig can pull anything that I would want it to pull. I wish I could have kept my Toyota Tacoma truck, but it can't be flat-towed. So short of that, getting another full-size truck would have been great. Full-size four-wheel drive would probably have been the best, because it would have given us what we need to be able to just take off from Trigger to some location to be able to vend with our business and have more storage space to put our whole setup in it, versus our car, which is enough to do a 10 by 10 somewhere, you know.
So looking ahead and seeing what we have planned for our second year of being nomads, the one big thing that we have planned for next year is to get our rig, get Trigger to Elkhart, Indiana, before our warranty expires, so that we can get any and all work done on the coach that needs to happen while it's still under warranty and covered. So we're planning on going there, and then eventually making our way out to the East Coast and seeing our friends up in Maine. And then probably New Jersey. Just, you know, we have a lot of friends that we haven't seen. And John, some people I have not met in the 25 or so years that we have known each other. We actually haven't met in person. So I'm really stoked that this is a possibility of getting us out there to see them, John and Amber.
So Acadia National Park in Maine is one of the places that we're heading towards. I hear it's the best place to go in Maine, whatever. But our friend actually lives there, and he's got a house there and a place that he says we can park.
Yeah.
So that's the far place that we're heading is to Maine, and with a stop with Elkhart, Indiana on the way. But another place that we're going to definitely make sure to go along the way is we're going to get up to Marquette, Michigan, up on the Upper Peninsula in Michigan, because we have a really good friend that lives up there. So we want to and so we want to get up there and visit her and check out that area, because I've heard a lot of really awesome things about that area. So that's kind of our big plan for year 2 is to get to Indiana, get some warranty work, see friends in places that we haven't that we haven't been to in a long time or ever. And if you're one of those friends that is along the way and we haven't mentioned you or we aren't thinking about you, please reach out to us and, you know, let us know if you've got a place where we can come park it for a while and visit and, you know, see what your area has to offer.
And my hometown of Chicago will definitely be visited, most likely not with the rig, but we'll have our car. Probably when the rig is in Elkhart, Indiana, we'll be able to make a quick trip up to Chicago for a couple of days, eat some good pizza. And yeah, I haven't been back to Chicago in probably a little over 20 years, so I'm kind of excited about thinking about that.
And as always, our years always begin in the desert. That's kind of like what we'd had planned from, you know, living this lifestyle. You kind of want to go where the weather suits your clothes. So the warmest place to be in the winter is in the desert. So that's where we'll be every year at the beginning of the year.
I guess that would make us officially snowbirds.
I guess. And we plan on getting over to Tucson because we need to get our storage moved from Salinas, California to Tucson, where storage is much cheaper. And then also being in Tucson, it will be close to the places where we would be able to sell it the easiest. So that's our year 2 is kind of planned out. Right now we're leaving Missoula, heading towards Spokane, where we're going to get our insurance adjuster to check out the hole that we've added to our rig. And then
not
at some
the
point,
modification that we wanted to do.
Yeah, at some point after that, we have to get it fixed. So we're not sure if it's going to happen in Spokane or if we're going to have to find some point south of there. We know of a couple spots in Oregon and in California, but so that's about where we're at with our 1 year of living in an RV.
Thanks for hanging in with us. If you made it all the way to the end, we have no idea how long this is going to be because I think we've been talking for like 2 hours.
Yeah, it seems like it's going to be. At this point, it's about an hour and a half. Now I'm probably going to edit out some of the parts that are just kind of like redundant or things that we'll add into another video about like some of our best places, the best places that we feel that we've boondocked in our. The camping locations that just had it all.
But yeah, we really appreciate those of you who are watching our videos and sharing our videos and liking our videos, all of that good stuff. It really means a lot, and yeah, we're looking forward to just making more memories and being able to shoot more awesome videos with our new camera.
Yeah, short of being able to hang out with you guys, knowing that you're following our videos really means a lot to us. And
it's like you're here with us.